Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths. This paper represents the best guess for the upcoming exams. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. Enjoy! For this question, it's really important that we understand what the words sum and product mean. Now, sum just means add, and product just means times. So we're going to start by adding the 5 and the 4. So that will equal 9. And then what we're going to do is find the product of 9 and 7. So we're going to multiply them together. 9 times 7, which is 63. So our answer is 63. And to work this out, we just need to type in 0.3 on the calculator and then press a button that mostly on most calculators looks like this, and it will just square it for us. If you can't find that button, all you need to do is do 0.3 times 0.3, and that will give you the same answer of 0.09. To find a coordinate, what we can do is we can start in the middle and we work out how far across we have to go. And here we have to go 2 across, so the x coordinate is 2. Then we find out how far upwards or downwards we have to go. And here we can go, well, we have to go 3 downwards, so that's going to be -3. So we first of all look at the x coordinate, the 2, then the y coordinate, -3, along the corridor, up, or in this case down the stairs. So 55% is the same as 55 over 100. And what I can do is I can divide top of the fraction by 5. And so that is going to equal 11 over 20. Now in total there are 20 squares here because there's 5 across and 4 down. 5 times 4 is 20. And if there's 20 squares and we're looking to shade in 11 20ths, it's just going to be 11 squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. To answer this question, we basically need to find the lowest common multiple of the 10 minutes here and the 15 minutes here. So we're going to start off just by doing the 10 and 15 times table. So it'd be 10, 20, 30, and 15 times table with 15 and 30. So the lowest common multiple is 30. So after half an hour, these buses will sync up. They'll both leave at the same time. And all buses start service at 9 o'clock. So it will be half an hour after 9 o'clock, which will be 9:30. Let's rewrite this expression, but with a time sign in. So v times w squared. Now w squared just means times by itself. So we can rewrite that as v times w times w. Okay, so we know v is -10. So -10. And we know w is -4. So it's times -4 times -4. Okay, so when you multiply, it doesn't matter which order we do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do these ones first, and I'm going to ignore that times -4 at the end. So -10 times -4, that's a minus times a minus, which is a positive, 10 times 4, which is 40, times -4. Now we're going to do 40 times -4, so it's a positive times a negative, so that's going to be a negative. And 40 times 4, well, 4 times 4 is 16, so 40 times 4 is 160. So it's going to be -160. So we have an original amount, and this represents 100% of the original amount. The new price, new amount, represents 113%, because it has said that it has gone up by 13%. So it has increased by 13%. And as a value, that increase is £1,287. So it's 13% of the original. It's gone up 13% of the original price. So what we're going to do is we're going to work out what 1% of the price increase is. Instead of 13%, we're going to work out what 1% is. And we're going to do that by dividing the amount by 13, and we get 99. So 1% represents £99. So 1% of the original represents £99. But the new amount is 113%. So we need to times the £99 by 113, which gives us £11,187. So the picture is now worth £11,187. So we're asked to reflect this shape along the line y equals x, and y equals x is a diagonal line where all the x values are equal to the y values. So at the bottom here we've got x is 10 and y is 10, so that coordinate would be 10, 10. And then obviously this coordinate 4, 4, etc. So we need to reflect it across this line. And so if I pick a point, I'm going to pick the top one. We can see it goes 4 diagonals to hit that line. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So it will go another 4 diagonals. So that will be one of the coordinates there. And I'm going to do the same with the bottom one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 diagonals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 diagonals. So it will be there. And then finally, I'm going to do this slightly harder one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Kind of goes over the other one. Ends up here. So if we join these up, and we need to label it B. So for this question, we just need to pick one of the coordinates. And I'm just going to pick this one here. And we just need to work out what the coordinates are. Well, it's going up in 2, so it's going to be 4 on this side. And this is kind of 4.5, so that's going to be 19 there. So we know it's 19 at the bottom and 4 at the side here. So we're going to have a look on our table for a 4 and a 19. We've got a 19 and 23 here. It's got to be a 4 and a 19, which is here. And it shows that the 4 is for paper 1 and the 19 is for paper 2. So our answer will just be paper 2. There's a formula we use for this, and it is percentage change is equal to the amount that's changed over the original amount, and all of that times 100%. So how much has changed here? Well, we need to do 10,488 take away 10,254, so that would be 234. Divide it by the original, so the original was 10,488 because it's decreased from that amount, and then times by 100%. And so that's going to be 2.23%. So to do this question, you just need a piece of paper, a ruler, and a protractor. And the first thing we do is we draw the 11 centimeter line. And my one will not be 11 centimeters for you. It is on my screen, but because depending on what device you watch this on will change obviously its length. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my protractor on this end here. So I've kind of got my protractor here. And I'm going to just have a look at getting 39 degrees. Now you've got to be careful because 39 is on the inside, and I'm just going to do a dot. So always look to see which one, the inside or the outside of the protractor, starts at 0, and the inside should start at 0 from this side. And I'm just going to draw a line that connects the end of that line and the dot. Like so. Now just you can keep it going. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is put my protractor on the other side. So my protractor is kind of here. And I'm lining up the crosshairs with this point here. But this time I'm measuring on the left hand side. And I'm looking at 59 degrees. Which will be here. Get my ruler. Now this time I can actually stop where it hits the other line. So keep going and then stop where it hits the other line. This screen's not perfectly calibrated, so it's difficult to do precise work, something like that. And then what you can do is you can get your rubber and just rub out the extra bit of line that we had to do. And so this is our 39 degrees here, and you don't need to label this on the diagram, but just so we know what we're doing. And it says when it's completed, measure length x. So I'm going to get my ruler out and I'm going to measure this length here, this one here, and it is about 95 millimeters. So the answer for me is 95 millimeters. Now there is some level of precision. You're not going to get necessarily exactly 95 millimeters. When we mark these questions, we normally have an overlay and we put it over the top, and if it's roughly the same, and you can make small errors because nobody's perfect, and my diagram definitely is not perfect, but there are allowable small errors here and there. So a stem leaf diagram is just a way of showing raw data. This 1 here could either mean 10 or it could mean 1. In this case we're using it to represent a 1. Because if you look at the data, they're all either 1 point something, 2 point something, 3 point something, or 4 point something. So looking at the 1 point somethings, we've got a 1.1 there, and we've got a 1.4. Looking at the 2 points, we've got a 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, and 2.8. Looking at the 3s, we've got 3.8, and looking at 4s, we've got 4.2, 4.4, and 4.7. And so in our key here, we're just going to pick this number here. It doesn't actually matter which number we pick. And we say 1 line 1 means 1.1 centimeters. So when simplifying ratio, it's very similar to simplifying fractions, but instead of the same thing having to do the same thing to the top and bottom, you have to do the same thing to the left and right. So I'm going to start here by dividing both sides by 100, because I notice they both have 2 zeros at the end. So that'll give me 10 here and 34 here. Now these are both even numbers, so a nice easy next one to do is dividing by 2, and we get was it 17? And 5 and 17, well, they're both prime numbers, and so there's nothing we can cancel them by, so it's going to be our answer, 5 to 17. First thing we need to do is work out the area of the wall, and so to do that we're just going to multiply the 44 by the 40. So 44 times 40 is 1,760. And next thing we notice is that each tin covers 10 meters squared. So it actually means we can work out the fact that there are 1,760 meters squared in total for our wall. And if each tin covers 10 meters squared, then we will need 176 tins. That's the amount of tins we need. And each tin costs £5.70, so it'd be 176 times the 5.7, or yeah, £5.70, or you could do it as 570 pence and convert it at the end. And that gives us a price of 1003.2. And so as money, that would be £1003.20. I'm going to start by writing out all the outcomes. So I'm going to start with trout. So for trout, as a main, I could have had biscuits for dessert. Trout as a main, I could have had cheesecake for dessert. Trout as a main, I could have pancakes as a dessert. Then I'm going to move on to a curry for main. So for curry for main, I could have had biscuits, could have had cheesecake, and I could have had pancakes. Now, to work out the probability, it's the amount of successful outcomes over the total amount of outcomes. So successful for this is a curry and pancakes. So curry and pancakes is a successful outcome, so it's just 1. The total amount are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the chance of me picking at random a curry and pancakes is 1 over 6. Rate is always something over time. So in this question, we can write a quick formula of rate is volume, like released from the water bottle, over time. Now we can rearrange that so that we have, because we're looking for the amount of water or the volume of the water, we can just rearrange it so that we have volume equals rate times time. Now it says the rate is 62 millilitres per second, so we've got 62 in there. The time is 11 seconds, so we just do 62 times 11, which is 682 seconds. Not seconds, millilitres, because it's volume. So 682 is our answer. So you do need to know the parts of a circle. So the full distance around the circle is called the circumference. If you've got a little bit of it, it's an arc. If you've got a line across it, that would be a chord. And the part that's kind of trapped in there is called a segment. Then if you've got a line across the circle going through the centre, that's a diameter. If you've got a line just going to the centre, if I can draw it properly, then that's called a radius. If you've got a line that touches the circle just on one point, like that, that's a tangent. But in this case, we have a sector. So the only options for the next card are for them to be higher, lower, or equal to 12. We already know that the probability for it being higher is 19% and lower is 28%. And all probabilities have to add up to 1, or in this case, because it's percentages, 100%. So to work out the probability that is missing, we're going to take away the 19% and the 28% away from 100% to see what's left. And that's 53%. The modal class is just the group that has the mode. Okay, the modal group. Class just means group. Now all these guys here are groups, so any of these could be the answer. To find the modal class or the modal group, we just look to see which one has the most numbers in it. Well, the first group has 16 in it, the next group has 11, the next group 17, the next group 11, and the next group, or the last group, 13. Which of those is the most? Well, 17. So the group that has the most is this 30. Let's do that a bit nicer. 30, and then C, and then 35. That essentially means 30 to 35, but make sure you copy it down correctly from the table, so exactly as it shows it in the table. This question seems a lot harder than it is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by rewriting the prime factors, but without the squared. So 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. I'm going to do the same with the other list as well. So 2 times 2 times 3 times 11. Now I'm going to put these into a Venn diagram. And so I'm just going to draw out a Venn diagram and get my two circles, because we're going to have the 450 and the 132. So 450 is on the left hand side and 132 is on the right hand side. And we're going to start just filling out the Venn diagram. So they both have a 2 in them and they both have a 3. But 450 has a 3, a 5 and a 5. And 132 has that 2 and the 11. Now to find the lowest common multiple, what you do is you just multiply all these numbers together and that will give you the lowest common multiple. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 times 5 times 5, which are the numbers on the left, times 2 times 3, which are the numbers in the middle, times 2 times 11. And when we do that, we get 9,900, and that's it. So our answer is 9,900. So we're going to start just by writing this out. So m equals 7 brackets x minus 10. And we're going to put our solving lines in. I'm going to start by expanding the brackets. And we don't need to. We could divide both sides by 7, but I think this is a bit easier. And we're going to subtract, or we're going to add 70 to both sides. So we're trying to get x as the subject. So we're trying to get x on its own. And we're next going to divide both sides by 7. So we have m plus 70, all of that over 7 equals x. So x equals m plus 70 over 7. So let's look through this question to see what information we're given and what information we're looking for. So we're given the acceleration is 13 meters per second squared. We're also given the distance is 19. And we're also given the end velocity, which is v, is 34. And we're looking for the initial velocity. So which of these formulae include A, S, V and U? That's got a T in it, that's got a T in it, so it's going to be this one here. So let's write that out. V squared equals U squared plus 2AS. So that would be 34 squared equals U squared, because that's the one we're looking for, plus 2 times 13 times 19. Okay, so let's just work these parts out. And so we've got 2 times 13 times 19, which is what, 494. And it turns into a solving part, so we're just going to solve this. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 494 from both sides. And so we're left with 662 equals u squared. Then we're just going to square root both sides. And so square root of that is going to be 25.729 blah blah blah. And it says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so it's going to be 25.73. The formula for an exterior angle for a regular polygon is 360 divided by the amount of sides. Now here we're given the fact that the exterior angle is 30 and we're looking for n, so we just need to rearrange the equation. We can times both sides by n. And then divide both sides by 30. And so we've got n equals 360 divided by 30. And when you do 360 divided by 30, we get the answer of 12. So it's a 12-sided shape. So we know that James knows that he has a square. So we can actually get rid of all of this bit. It's not relevant at all to the question. And the question asks, what is the probability that the square is blue? Well, there are 3 blue squares, so it will be 3 over, and how many are there in total? Well, it says the total is 17. So the answer is 3 over 17. To find the largest weight this package could have been before it was rounded, let's do a quick number line. And we're going to just do it between the 24 and what it would round to next. Well, it's 10 nearest kilogram, so the next thing it would round to is 25. The cutoff point for rounding is here. And that's going to be halfway between 24 and 25, which is 24.5. And that is actually going to be our answer. Now, some of you who are astute might realise that 24.5 would round to 25, but theoretically the biggest it can be is going to be 24.49 recurring. Let's just draw that a bit better, 24.49 recurring. And that is actually the same as 24.5. In your exam, however, you can write 24.49 recurring and you would get full marks, but for brevity, I would definitely recommend writing 24.5. So angles and a point add up to 360, and we are given the values of the angles, but in terms of r. So we know that r plus 9r plus 20 will equal 360. So we've got an equation here we can solve. So first of all, let's add the r's together, and so that will be 10r plus 20 equals 360. Then we're going to subtract the 20 from both sides. So we have 10r equals 340, and then we're going to divide by 10 both sides. So we have r equals 34. So our answer is 34. There's an awful lot going on in this question. Whenever there's an awful lot going on, it's always best to draw a diagram. So we're going to start off at Chelton, which is a C. Then we go to Bolko, that's where we're going. And we go through Devley on the way. So we'll do D there. Distance from Chelton to Devley is 34 miles. Distance from Devley to Bovlo is 16 miles. So I'm just reading through the question, adding it to my diagram. David leaves Chelton at 9 o'clock. He drives from Chelton to Devley an average speed of 68 miles per hour. And what speed does David travel between Devley and Bolko to arrive at 9:45? So the whole duration of this, the whole thing needs to be 45 minutes or 0.75 hours. And the entire distance is 34 plus 16, so that would be 50 miles. Okay, now having a look at this, we need to find out what time David was at Devley. So we're going to use our speed, distance, time triangle. So speed equals distance over time, and we're covering up the time because that's the one we want. So it's going to be time equals distance, which is 34, over speed, which is 68. So we're going to do 34 divided by 68, which is 0.5. So it would be 0.5 hours. So that would be half an hour. So we will be at Devley at 9:30. So that means we've got 15 minutes left. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes to travel the 16 miles. So this time we're looking for the speed. Okay, so it would be speed equals the distance, which is 16 miles, over time, which is 15 minutes, but we need that in hours, so that would be 0.25 hours. And so what we can do here is times top 1 by 4 to get rid of the fraction. So it becomes 64 over 1, or just 64 miles per hour. So our answer is 64 miles per hour. So first thing to realise is that the formula for a volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h. So what we need to do first of all is work out the volume of the water butt that James currently has. So we're going to do the volume equals pi times the radius, which is 89 squared, times the height, which is 189. And when we do that, we get 1497,069 lots of pi. And I'll keep this in terms of pi just for simplicity. Now, what we want is we want the volume to stay the same. So we're going to keep that as the volume, 1497,069 pi. But we want the radius to change. So instead of the radius being 89, we want the radius to be 103. So times 103 squared. And we're trying to work out what the height is. Okay, so first thing we can do actually is just cross off the pi's from both sides. We don't really need them at all. And then we can get our solving things in, our solving lines, and we can divide both sides by the 103 squared. And on the left hand side we get 141.113 blah blah blah, and on the right hand side we get h. So the height will be 141.113. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that will be 141.11. So the symbol here basically means and the way I remember it is if you draw that symbol and just put a line through it, you can make the word and. So we're looking at the probability of getting something that is in A and C. So the only ones that are in A and C are this 8 and this 9 here. So we're going to just add the 8 and the 9 together, which give us 17. Now we need to then work out how many numbers there are in total, so that's all of them. So 4 plus 8 plus 9 plus 5 plus 8 plus 3 plus 11 plus 6. So we need the total, which is 54. And then we get the 17, and we put that over the amount in total, so over 54. So for this question, what we need to do is factorise 4t plus 6. Now factorise means put it into brackets. So if I try, what I can do is I can actually put a 1 on the outside here. So 1 times 4t plus 6 is 4t plus 6, but the question clearly states that it is higher than 1. So we need to find another number that's higher than 1 to factorise this with. So if we look at 4t and 6, well, they're both in the 2 times table. So I can put a 2 on the outside here. 2 times 2t is 4t, and 2 times 3 is 6. So what we can do is we can just check that out with smiles and rainbows. Put my times down there to remind me to times it. So 2 times 2t is 4t, 2 times 3 is 6. So that works because that is the same as this in the question. So we know that 2 times 2t plus 3 works. In fact, it's the only one that works with it being an integer. So we therefore know that the known side, because it says it's a known number, is 2. And the other side will be 2t plus 3. And then when you multiply them together, you get the area of 4t plus 6. So our answer, because it says the length is the known number, so that's the length, then we're finding the width, which is this one here. So it's 2t plus 3. So we need to first of all work out the amount of machine minutes it takes to make a toy. And what we do is we multiply the amount of machines by the amount of minutes. So 5 times 40, which would be 200. So if we had one machine, it would take 200 minutes to create one toy. Here we're asked, well, okay, what if we wanted a toy every 8 minutes? So we get the 200 and we divide it by 8. And when we do that, we get 25. So if we had 25 machines, we would be able to make it every 8 minutes. And the logic here is 5 machines. So this is machines, and this is minutes, is 40. Then 8 minutes, if you think about it, we divide that by 5 to get to 8. And so if we divide the amount of minutes by 5, we actually times the amount of machines required by 5. So this is called an inverse relationship. So if one doubles, the other halves. If one divided by 5, the other will times by 5. So our answer here is 25 machines. So I'm going to start off just with a quick sketch. And we know that the bearing of B from A is 85 degrees. So we're going to have A here and B here. And let's just draw a line between them. And let's do both our north lines. And so we know that this angle here is 85 because it's the angle on the bearing of B from A, so it's 85 degrees. So now it says work out the bearing of A from B. So the first thing we can do is actually just draw a line going down here. And we know that this angle here will also be 85 degrees because of alternate angles. It's always best to write that down somewhere, so we can just put in brackets here alternate angles. And we know that this angle here is going to be 180 degrees because it's a straight line. And I'm not a fan of doing the reasons on the diagram, so maybe perhaps I should have labelled this an X and this a Y and written X equals 85 and Y equals 180 somewhere else. And so to work out what the bearing is, I just need to do 180 plus 85. So 180 plus 85 is going to be 265 degrees. The important thing to realise in this question is that we know a female has been selected. So we can just basically get rid of all of this part of the frequency tree because it's not relevant, because we know a female's been selected. So there's 29 females altogether, and we're looking for the probability that the female chosen at random picked action. So it's just simply 16 over 29. So we're going to start by understanding that all lines form or can form an equation y equals mx plus c, with m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. It says here the gradient is -2, so we've already got a bit of a head start with this, but we don't know what the y-intercept is. So we're going to use this first set of coordinates to work out what the y-intercept is. So y is -31 and x is 15. And we're going to use this to solve and find out what c is. So first thing I'm going to do is, well, just tidy this up. 2 times 15 is 30, so -30 plus c. And I'm just going to add 30 to both sides to get c on its own. So that would be -1 equals c. So c is -1. So we now know that the equation is y equals -2x minus 1. And we're told that the y is -37. And we're looking for the x value, which they've called w. So let's get our solving lines in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is add 1 to both sides. And so it would be -36 equals -2x. I'm going to now times, or divide everything by -2. And a negative divided by a negative is positive. 36 divided by 2 is 18. And then obviously that gets rid of the coefficient of the x, so it's just x. So x equals 18. So the x value is 18 and the x value is the w value. So w is 18. If we try and visualize this question on a graph, then we've got c, which is somewhere here. So we've got c, which is somewhere here at coordinates 2, -12. And we've got d, which is somewhere here at coordinates 8, 4. And we're asked for the length of the line segment. So we're asked for this distance here. Now we can see that we can actually make a right angled triangle with this line segment, and we've got to find out what each of the sides is going to be. So the bottom one starts at x coordinate 2 and D it goes to x coordinate 8, so it's going to be 8 take away 2, which is going to be 6. So the distance there is 6. And how far does it go up? Well, we've gone from minus 12 to 4, so that's gone up 16. And we know that when we've got a right angle triangle, which this one is, and we're asked for one of the lengths, having given the other two, we're going to be using Pythagoras. So for Pythagoras, label the sides A, B and C, with C being the one opposite the right angle. And we write down the Pythagoras' theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared we've said is 6, b is 16, and 6 squared plus 16 squared is going to be 292. And then we're just going to quickly solve this by square rooting both sides. And so we're left with 17.088 blah 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 is equal to C. And because it asks it to 2 decimal places, we're going to write the answer of 17.09. I'm just going to write the question out, so we've got a little bit bigger writing to play with here. And it doesn't actually matter which method you expand these brackets with. I'm going to use Smars and Rainbows, so we multiply the 8 by the 10x, which will make 80x, and multiply the 8 by the 4, which will make 32. Now here we've got a minus 5 on the outside, so we do minus 5 times 8x, which is minus 40x, and minus 5 times minus 4, which is actually plus 20. And a lot of students will write take away 20 there, but that is a minus 5 on the outside of the brackets there. So it's minus 5 times the minus 4 there will give you a plus 20. Then 80x take away 40x, which will give us 40x. And 32 plus 20, which would be 52. So our answer would be 40x plus 52. So the first thing we're going to do is work out the area of the trapezium. And the formula for that is half brackets a plus b times h. Now a and b have to be the parallel sides. So here we've got the two parallel sides here. Just pick a different colour. Here and here. So that is a and b. And then the h is the perpendicular distance between them. So perpendicular means it hits it at right angles, so that's what we've got here. So the area would be half times A, which is 28, plus B, which is 14, times the height, which is 14. And so that would be 294. Next we'll do the circle. Now it doesn't look like we've got anything for the circle, but actually the height here is actually the height of the circle as well. So the height of the circle is the same as the diameter. So the diameter of the circle is 14. Therefore the radius would be half of that, which is 7. And the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared. So it would be pi times 7 squared, which will be 153.938 blah blah blah. Now keep that in my calculator, because next thing we'll do is the shaded area part, and it says we want to work out the area of the shaded region. So the area will be the total area, which will be the trapezium, take away the area that we don't want, which is this bit here, which will be the circle. So the trapezium's 294, the circle's 153.93 blah blah blah, and when you do that you get 140.061 blah blah blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, So it would be 140.06. So with each of these pools, try and imagine it being filled. So pool A, first of all, we've got water coming into it, and it's actually going to go quite quickly initially, and then it will hit a point at the end where actually it will go really quite slowly because it's a wider pool. So we would imagine that the graph for pool A would actually go quite quickly at the start, and then at the end it would go much slower. And that doesn't really describe, the red graph doesn't really describe that at all. So for pool B, we start off actually quite quickly because it's quite thin, and then we have a wider bit here, so it will go slower here, and then we go quickly again. So we need a graph that starts off quite quickly, then goes slowly, and then goes quickly. And the steeper the graph on our depth time graph, the faster it's filling up. And that red line doesn't really describe that either. Pool C, however, we can see it goes slowly at the start. And then because it's thin, it will go quicker. So nice quickly. And then it will go slowly again. Well, that is a perfect description of the graph that we're given. So the graph we're given is definitely going to be for pool C. When proving that two triangles are congruent, and congruent just means exactly the same, there are 4 different proofs. Either you can work out the 2 angles and a side in that order, or an angle, a side, and an angle in that order are the same. A side, an angle, then a side again are the same. 3 sides are the same, or we've got right angle, hypotenuse, and side. Now in this question we don't have a right angle, so we can get rid of that. We have a side but only one side, so we're not going to use the 3 sides. And again, we don't have 2 sides, we only have one side, so we can get rid of this one. So it's really down to the top one. Well, what do we have? We have an angle, then a side, then an angle. So it's 139 degrees, then 13 meters, then 49 degrees in that order. So it's an angle, side, and then an angle, side, then an angle. So it's going to be this one here. So we're going to say ASA, or we could say AAS stroke ASA, or just leave it as ASA. I probably would leave it as ASA to say it's the angle side angle. So I'm going to write the equation out, the formula out. And we're asked to make y the subject, so I'm just going to get my lines in. And so what's stopping us from having y on its own? Well, this minus 1. How am I going to get rid of it? Add 1 both sides. So we've got x plus 1 equals 9y. What else do we have that stops y from being on its own? Well, this times 9 here. So we're going to do the opposite, the inverse, which is divide by 9 both sides. And to do that nicely, what we do is we just do it as a fraction. X plus 1 over 9 equals y. So therefore y is x plus 1 over 9. When translating, we translate with vectors, and the top number in a vector tells us how far right, and the bottom number tells us how far up we go. And to translate a shape, you always pick a point. Now I always pick the top leftmost point, so I'm going to pick this one. And looking at the vector, it says we're going to go 2 to the right. So we do 2 jumps to the right, 1, 2. Now looking at the bottom, because it's minus 4, instead of going up 4, we're going to go down 4. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So our new coordinate for the top will be here. And the next thing we need to do is draw in the shape. So that's the top left part of the shape. And so I'm going to draw in the shape, and it's 4 across. So it should go here. And draw in the shape from there. Make sure that you know that that coordinate is the top left part of our shape. And it says to label it B. So we're going to start off with x equals 0. And we're going to write out this equation, but with 0 every time it says x. So it's going to be y equals 0 squared minus 0 plus 10. Well, 0 squared is just 0, so 0 take away 0 is just 0, plus 10 is just going to be 10. So the answer there would be 10. Could do the same for 1. So it would be 1 squared minus 1 plus 10. Well, 1 squared is 1, 1 take away 1 is 0, plus 10 is 10. so that'll also be 10. 2 squared minus 2 plus 10. 2 squared is 4, 4 take away 2 is 2, plus 10 will be 12. Now we're going to do the negative, so we're going to look at minus 1. So it's y equals minus 1 squared, and it's going to be minus 1 plus 10. So a little bit more complicated here. Minus 1 squared is just 1. Now here you have two negatives together. When you have two negatives together, it makes a plus. So we've got 1 plus 1 plus 10, which is going to be 12. And then we'll do the minus 2, so it'd be minus 2 squared minus 2 plus 10. So minus 2 squared is 4. The two minuses here make a plus, so it'd be plus 2, which would be 6, plus 10 will be 16. So we're going to plot these on our graph. And so we've got minus 2 is at 16, so that'll be there. Minus 1 is at 12. Should be here. 0 is at 10, 1 is at 10, and 2 is at 12. Okay, when you join this up, things to be aware of is you need to make sure that you have a round U at the bottom and not a flat bottom. Okay, so you want to avoid a flat bottom. You also want to make sure that you avoid feathering like that. You want just one nice smooth line. And my recommendation is always to turn the page on its side. I don't have that luxury, so I'm going to try my best with this. But you need to make sure it goes through all the points. And here's the part here where it goes beneath those 2 points. So make sure it goes beneath those 2 points. On most exams, I see them, basically what they do is they draw a line across from those 2 points and say that the line needs to go beneath that, or your curve needs to go beneath that line. So they're looking out so that you've gone beneath the line. To find the gradient, we need to find 2 points we know on this graph. So I'm going to pick that coordinate and this coordinate here. And we know that we need to draw a right angled triangle between them. And we find the gradient by the change in y, which is 3, over the change in x. But notice the change in x is 1, so it's going to end up being 3 divided by 1, which is just 3. So a different definition of the gradient is for every 1 we go to the right, how far up we go, which is 3. So we're going to first of all convert the 11 litres into millilitres. So we're going to do 11 times 1,000, which would be 11,000. Okay, so we're going to just draw a line, like a number line. And we're going to have the 11,000 in the middle. Now, what would be the next one down if we're looking at to the nearest 10 mil? So we're going to add a 10 mil on, which will be 11,010, and we're going to take the 10 mil away. So 11,000 take away 10 mil will be 10, 990. Now when we're looking at limits with the upper and lower part of it, we are looking at halfway points. So halfway here and halfway here. So this halfway point will be 10,995, and the next one will be 11,005, and that's the halfway points. And so that is going to be our upper and lower bound. And we just need to say that V can be anything above the 10,995 and including that, and it can be anything below 11,005, but it can't include that, because if it did, if it was 11,005, it would have rounded up to 11,010. With this question, you've just got to know what the different functions look like. So with C and D, we've got quadratic functions. One's a positive quadratic, which is a U shape. One's a negative quadratic, which is a kind of upside down U shape or an N shape. And here we don't have that, so we can get rid of those in our thoughts straight away. A is a positive cubic, which goes up, then down, then up again. and b is a negative cubic, which goes down, up, and then down again. So this one here goes up, down, up again. That's going to be a positive cubic. So our answer is A. With these questions, it's normally easier to view these as two separate triangles. So we've got a small triangle here with 19 and 47. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this out. And we've got a bigger triangle here. And we've got, well, we've got a bit of, we don't really know what any of the sides are just yet, but we can work them out. Okay, now we know that both of these triangles are similar, and the reason is they share an angle and the lengths at the bottom are parallel, so they will be similar, which means one's an enlargement of the other. And we are given some information in the question that the ratio of BC to DE is 1 to 6. So BC is this length here, and DE is this length here. So we're actually given the scale factor because we know that 1 times 6 is 6. So we know the scale factor is 6, and it's asking us to find length AD. And so the corresponding length to AD, which is this one here. So all we need to do is get that 47, times it by the scale factor, so times it by 6 to get to our value. So it's 282. So this says find the probability of A or B. Now A or B means it can be in A, it can be in B, or it can be in both. So we add the 5, the 3 and the 12 together, and that gives us 20, and put that over the total amount. So that is these three added together, which is 20, plus the one outside here, which is 30. 20 over 30 is the same as 2 over 3. So we're going to start by doing a grid, a multiplication grid, and we're going to start by putting 2x plus 11 at the top and 5x plus 3 down the side. And we're going to multiply them out, so 5 times 2 is 10, so it would be 10x squared. 5x times 11, so 5 times 11 is 55, so it would be 55x, and it's positive. And 3 times 2 is 6, so it would be 6x, and that's positive. And 3 times 11 is 33, and that would be a positive. So when we put them all together, we get 10x squared plus 55x plus 6x plus 33. You can see that the x terms are like terms, so we can add them together. So we get 10x squared plus 61x plus 33. So our answer will be 10x squared plus 61x plus 33. So there are three parts that we need to find the area of. We're going to start with the easiest bit first, this circle at the bottom here. Okay, so the circle area is just going to be pi times r squared, and the radius is given to us at the top, which is 9, so it's just going to be pi times 9 squared, and that would be 254.469 blah blah blah. Or we could leave it as 81 pi. Next bit is the curved bit of the cylinder. So we're going to do the cylinder next. And it's just the curved bit, and the formula for that is 2 pi r h. So 2 times pi times the radius, which is 9, times the height, which is 30, and that will give us 1696.460 blah blah blah. And the last bit is this hemisphere here, and so let's do the hemisphere. And the formula for the area of a hemisphere, well, this full sphere is 4 times pi times r squared, but because it's a hemisphere, it's half of that. And so it'd be half times 4 times pi times the 9 squared, and that will give us 508.938. And so the final thing is to work out the total area, so total surface area, and we're just going to add up all these numbers together. So we add up the 254.469, the 1696.460, blah blah blah, and the 508.938, blah 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 blah, and we get 2459.867, blah blah blah. Do make sure you show the examiner that you're adding these three here. I've not done that because it wastes a bit of time for a video, but make sure you write it down. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so that will be 2459.87 centimeters squared. So we've got a right angled triangle here, and we've got two lengths and an angle involved in the question, so we are going to be using trigonometry. And the first thing to do with trigonometry is label the sides. So the one opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse, the one opposite the marked angle is the opposite, and the one between the right angle and the marked angle is the adjacent. Now notice that hypotenuse doesn't have a number or a letter next to it, so we're going to cross that out, we're not interested in that. And we're now going to just draw our triangles, our SOHCAHTOA triangles, so it would be SOHCAHTOA. And we've crossed out the H, so it's not going to be SO or CA, it's going to be TOA, because TOA is the only one without an H. So it's going to be tan the angle equals the opposite over adjacent. So the angle is 48, so tan 48 equals the opposite, which is x, over 2.3. And we're going to put our lines in. And notice here we just need to times by 2.3 both sides to get x on its own. Now be careful when you type in tan 48, most calculators will open a bracket after typing in the tan, so make sure you close it after the 48, then type in times 2.3, and we get 2.554 blah blah blah. And so when we round that to 2 decimal places, that would be 2.55. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.